Unaware her mom, who everyone believed was nothing more than a quiet woman running a tiny corner bakery, was actually a secret billionaire with a hidden $500 million inheritance. He divorced her daughter for being too poor, choosing instead to marry his glamorous mistress, believing he was upgrading his life. But everything he thought he knew about wealth, loyalty, and power shattered the day the humble bakery girl returned. Because before he signed those divorce papers, he never asked why her mother worked sunrise to sunset in a bakery she could have easily sold for fortunes. Or why she always warned her daughter that wealth reveals character. He mocked their simplicity, sneered at their small apartment, boasted to friends that he escaped a poor family, and paraded his new mistress around town as proof of moving up. But he had no idea the woman he abandoned was the rightful heir to a secret empire that had been quietly watching his every move. Now she's back, no longer the girl he thought he could break, and the entire city is whispering about what happened when he saw her again. Why did her billionaire mother hide the $500 million inheritance for so long? What did the ex-husband see that made his jaw drop in front of everyone? And what exactly did she do, calm, composed, and heartbreakingly powerful, that crushed him in a way he never saw coming? The smell of warm cinnamon rolls drifted through the morning air as Emily lifted the metal shutter of her mother's bakery, Heart and Hearth, just like she had done since she was 12. The small brick building sat on a quiet corner of Willow Street, a place locals came for comfort and conversation. People always assumed her mother, Helen, clung to the bakery because she had nothing else. Nobody imagined the truth, that the woman covered in flour before sunrise managed a fortune larger than most corporate dynasties. But Emily never questioned her mother's choices. She adored the simplicity, the warmth, the sense of home that lived inside those walls. And for years, she believed love worked the same way. Quiet, devoted, dependable. That's why she fell for Tyler Harris. Tyler had swept into her life like the kind of man she never thought would look her way. Well-dressed, charming, ambitious. At first, his compliments felt like sunlight. He used words like future, stability, and building life together. He told her she deserved more than a bakery girl's routine, but somewhere along the way, those words shifted. His ambition sharpened into arrogance. His confidence hardened into entitlement. And Emily, distracted by hope, didn't notice how often he compared their lives to others. "You're too soft," he once told her, laughing lightly like it wasn't an insult. "Your dreams are too small. You'll never understand what real success feels like if you stay tied to your mom's little pastry shop." Emily brushed it off then. People speak differently under stress, she told herself, but the memory stung now, echoing through her mind. That morning, as she arranged the fresh pastries behind the glass display, she replayed one of the last conversations they had. He had come home agitated, pacing the living room like the walls were closing in. "I got a chance at something big," he said, "but I can't take it if I'm dragging around all this." His hand waved vaguely toward their apartment, the thrifted couch, the old bookshelf, the mismatched plates. But Emily knew he meant her. She had stood frozen, unable to process what was unfolding. "Tyler, what are you saying?" "That I need someone who matches my vision. Someone who understands what it means to push forward. I can't be married to someone who's satisfied working in a bakery. It limits me." A week later, he filed for divorce. Emily remembered the emptiness she felt sitting with the papers, staring at the place where her signature was required. She hadn't cried then, not immediately. Her shock had paralyzed her emotions, numbed her thoughts. It was her mother who held her hand steady. "Sweetheart," Helen said softly, brushing a tear Emily didn't realize had escaped. "When people show you their definition of success, pay attention. Some build their worth on character, others build it on comparison." "But why would he?" Emily tried to speak, voice breaking. "Because he believes wealth is measured by visibility," Helen said, "and we were never flashy enough for him." Emily didn't know what her mother truly meant at the time. She didn't know Helen was speaking from experience, deep, private experience. She didn't know that the same man who abandoned her for lack of status would someday realize she had more power than he ever dreamed of. But that morning in the bakery, Emily only felt the ache of being discarded. As she served the first customers, she kept her smile steady even though her heart still cracked in quiet places. People asked about Tyler, curious but polite. She simply said they were going their separate ways. Nobody pressed. Around noon, her mother emerged from the back office where she handled inventory. Her face carried a softness, but her eyes, sharp, thoughtful, watched Emily carefully. "You're working too hard today," Helen murmured. "I need to keep busy," Emily said, wiping her hands on her apron. Helen studied her daughter, then looked toward the window where sunlight poured onto the wooden tables. She sighed, shoulders lifting slightly, as if carrying a weight she'd held for decades. "Emily," she said quietly, "there's something you need to know." But before she could continue, the bakery door opened, and in walked Tyler. His arm was linked with a woman wearing diamond earrings so large they sparkled like they demanded attention. His smile was smug, victorious, and when his gaze landed on Emily, it carried a condescending pity, like he had come to show her what she'd lost. Helen's expression changed. Her eyes cooled. Her jaw tightened just enough to be noticed. "Mom?" Emily whispered, confused by the intensity in her mother's stare. But Helen wasn't looking at her daughter anymore. She was studying the man who had broken her heart and the woman on his arm. Emily didn't yet understand it, but this moment, their entrance, her mother's sudden stillness, was the beginning of everything. The first crack in the illusion, the first step toward a revelation that would rewrite every assumption, every belief, every painful wound Tyler had inflicted. And her mother knew it. Tyler stood in the doorway as if the bakery were a stage built exclusively for his entrance. His posture radiated ego, chin lifted, shoulders pulled back, one hand casually resting on the small of the woman beside him. The woman, tall and impeccably styled, scanned the room with a slow, assessing look, as though she believed even standing here was an act of charity. Emily's breath caught, but not from longing, from something colder. Something she wasn't used to feeling. Disbelief at the audacity of the man who had discarded her like a weekend inconvenience. "Emily," Tyler said, stepping forward with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. "Didn't expect to see you working here again." His tone stretched the word "here" like an insult. Emily swallowed. "It's my mother's bakery. Of course I'd be here." His mistress, Renee, leaned her head on his shoulder in a soft, practiced gesture. "Tyler told me all about this little place. It's quaint." Quaint. The words slapped the air between them with a sugary sting. Before Emily could respond, Helen stepped forward, wiping her hands calmly with a clean cloth. Her expression stayed perfectly neutral, but her eyes carried something razor-sharp, an observant precision that usually meant she was reading someone deeper than they realized. "Tyler," Helen said, "it's been a while." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Helen had never raised her voice in front of him, but something about her presence always made him fidget. He used to say it was because Helen looked at him like she knew something he didn't, something he was afraid to ask. Renee smiled brightly. "Oh, you must be Emily's mother. Tyler says you make wonderful pastries, very traditional. It must be fulfilling to spend your life doing something so simple." Emily stiffened. Helen, however, merely folded the cloth and placed it on the counter. "It has been fulfilling," she said softly, "more than you might imagine." An odd silence filled the room, not loud, not tense, but observant, like the walls were waiting for something. Tyler cleared his throat, breaking the stillness. "We're actually here to pick up a cake. Renee's hosting a small engagement dinner tomorrow." The word engagement hung in the air like smoke. Emily blinked. "Engagement? You're getting engaged already?" "Of course," Renee said, lifting her ring hand into the light. The diamond was large but not elegant, big for the sake of being big. "Tyler wants to start fresh, with someone whose lifestyle aligns with his." Helen's hands stilled. Emily felt her heartbeat slam into her ribs, but she controlled her breathing. The last thing she wanted was to give either of them the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. "Congratulations," she managed quietly. Tyler grinned with pride as if he'd achieved something monumental. "Thanks. I knew you'd be happy for us. I mean, you're moving on too, right? Still in the apartment?" Emily didn't speak. He didn't deserve a response. But again, it was Helen who stepped forward, her voice gentle yet firm. "You'll have the cake by noon tomorrow," she said. "You can pick it up then." Renee leaned forward, her eyes narrowing with subtle mischief. "Actually, I don't mind waiting while you make it now. We have time." Helen smiled. Emily recognized the smile. It was the one her mother reserved for people who assumed they knew more than they did. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Helen said. "Custom orders require care and time." Tyler rolled his eyes. "It's just a cake." Those 4 words struck something inside Helen, a spark, a memory, a buried truth Emily had never fully understood. She exchanged a brief glance with her daughter. A silent message passed between them. For the first time, Emily noticed something unusual. Her mother was disappointed, not angry, not irritated. Disappointed in a way that felt older than this moment, like she had seen this behavior before, decades ago, from someone else who mistaken humility for weakness. "We'll come back tomorrow," Tyler said, tugging Renee toward the exit. "Maybe you'll have something nicer prepared then." As they walked out, the bakery doorbell jingled. The sound usually felt warm. Today it echoed faintly like a warning. When the door shut, Helen turned to Emily. "You okay?" she asked. Emily nodded, but her eyes betrayed her. "Why did he come here? Just to show off?" "No," Helen said. "He came because life hasn't taught him the right lesson yet." Emily leaned against the counter, exhaling slowly. "He's getting engaged, Mom. A day after the divorce." Helen stepped closer, placed a gentle hand on Emily's cheek, and spoke quietly. "Sweetheart, you need to know something. Something I should have told you long ago." Emily looked up, confused and weary. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Helen hesitated, a rare thing. She glanced around, as if the bakery walls carried memories she wasn't ready to release. For a moment, she seemed to travel somewhere far inside herself. Then she exhaled. "Your grandmother," Helen said, "built something extraordinary, a legacy, an empire, and she entrusted it to me and eventually to you." Emily blinked. "Mom, what do you mean?" Helen's eyes softened, sad, longing, filled with secrets. "You're not poor, Emily. You never were, and neither am I." The air stilled, heavy with unspoken truths. "Your mother didn't run this bakery because she needed the money," Helen whispered. "She ran it to stay human." Emily stared at her, heart pounding, mind spinning. "What empire?" she whispered. Helen opened her mouth to respond, but a car engine revved outside, headlights flashing against the bakery window. Tyler's car. He hadn't left yet. And he had heard enough to make everything dangerous. Tyler sat motionless in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had meant to hurry Renee back to the car before she asked more questions about the tiny bakery, but then he'd heard the words through the half-open window. Words he was never meant to hear, words that scraped against his pride like sandpaper. "You're not poor, Emily, and neither am I." His pulse hammered in his ears. A cold pressure built in his throat like the beginning of panic, yet it wasn't fear. It was something uglier, hungry, a greed that felt cornered. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed through the faint glare on the glass as he watched Helen and Emily inside. 2 women he had dismissed, 2 women he had pitied. 2 women he had walked away from with the smug belief he'd traded up. Now everything inside him twisted. A faint knock on the window startled him. Renee's reflection appeared in the glass as she leaned down, voice sharp. "Tyler, what's taking so long?" He jerked, rolling the window up an inch, shutting out her voice. His mind raced. An empire, inheritance, hidden wealth. Emily, a woman he had belittled, mocked, abandoned, could be sitting on millions? No, he needed more information. He needed to know everything before he made a move, before he reacted in a way that exposed his growing desperation. Back inside, Emily's hands trembled as she processed her mother's unfinished confession. "Mom, what are you saying?" she whispered again. Helen took a deep breath, her shoulders straightening like a woman preparing for a truth she had postponed for years. "I kept this from you because I wanted you to grow into your own character," Helen began. Your grandmother was a powerful woman, Emily. Too powerful, sometimes. The kind of woman men tried to use or manipulate. She didn't want that for me. She didn't want it for you. Emily's breath hitched. She had only vague memories of her grandmother. Soft hands, silver hair, a stern voice softened by affection. She never imagined there had been a kingdom hidden behind those eyes. After she passed, Helen continued quietly, I inherited everything. Not just money, companies, investments, real estate, a legacy she built from nothing. Emily stared in disbelief. Mom, if you had all that, why live like this? Helen smiled sadly. Because money is loud, and power attracts the worst kind of people. This bakery was the only place where I could be myself, and I wanted you to grow up seeing what kindness looks like without the filter of wealth. Emily's eyes watered. But why not tell me? Why wait until now? Because, Helen whispered, you loved Tyler, and I needed to know if he loved you. Emily froze. And now, Helen added, voice firming, we have our answer. A soft gasp slipped from Emily's mouth as the truth settled around her like cold air. Tyler hadn't just betrayed her, he had disqualified himself from a life he could have had, not through poverty but through character. He left because he thought you had nothing to offer him, Helen said gently. He left because he saw no worth here. But wealth doesn't change a person, Emily. It reveals them. Emily touched the edge of the counter, grounding herself. Memories flashed. Tyler's dismissive comments, his constant comparison to others, his sharp words when she talked about her simple dreams. When were you going to tell me? She whispered. When you were ready, Helen said. When your heart could hear it without confusing it for revenge or reaction. When you understood that your value was never tied to the wealth behind you. Before Emily could respond, the bakery door opened. Tyler stepped inside. But this time he wasn't swaggering. He wasn't smirking. He wasn't showing off. He looked rattled, eyes wide with a mixture of urgency and rehearsed innocence, the kind of expression people wear when trying to pretend they didn't overhear the truth. Emily, he began, voice unsteady but attempting calm. I think we need to talk. Emily stiffened. Helen shifted subtly in front of her, protective, like a quiet shield. There's nothing to talk about, Helen said firmly. Tyler shook his head, ignoring her. His eyes remained locked on Emily. I think there is. I think we ended things too fast. Emily stared. What? Tyler stepped closer, his tone softening with suspicious tenderness. I made mistakes, Em. Big ones. I let ambition cloud what really mattered. I should have appreciated you more. I should have understood your background better. Emily narrowed her eyes. My background? You mean the background you thought wasn't good enough? Tyler swallowed. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't know certain things. Helen's expression sharpened. What things would those be? Tyler hesitated, then forced a gentle smile. I want to make things right. Maybe we could start over. Talk things through. Just you and me. Emily's chest tightened, not with hope, but with clarity. The kind of clarity that stings until it strengthens. She stepped out from behind Helen. Tyler, she said softly, you didn't love me. You loved the idea of where I could take you. And when you decided I wasn't enough, you threw me away without hesitation. That's not true, he protested. It is, Emily replied, her voice steady. I begged you to talk. You refused. You walked away and got engaged the next day. I wasn't enough for you then. But now I am? Tyler flinched. He didn't answer. He couldn't, because the truth had exposed him long before she did. Emily took a breath and stepped back. Leave, Tyler. There's nothing left here for you. Tyler opened his mouth to speak again, but Helen's hand lifted slightly. A silent warning, a boundary, a promise. He hesitated, shaken by something in Helen's calm stare, and finally turned toward the door. But as he stepped outside, he glanced back once more, eyes burning with a new determination. Not the determination of a man in love, but of a man calculating, plotting. And Emily felt something shift inside her. This wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning arrived with a gray, muted sky, One of those mornings where the world felt quiet just before something shifted. Emily woke early, the ache of the previous day still resting heavily in her chest. But beneath the ache was something new, a firmness, a spine she hadn't known she possessed. She found her mother already in the bakery kitchen packing the engagement cake Tyler had ordered. The white frosting glowed softly, decorated with delicate hand-piped roses, a masterpiece meant for a celebration that wasn't hers. "You're actually making it?" Emily asked softly. Helen didn't look up. "A promise is a promise, and I want him to see that my integrity isn't determined by his behavior." Emily hesitated, then nodded. There was a strength in that she admired. But as she reached for her apron, Helen's hand touched hers gently. "No work today," her mother said. "I want you to come with me." Emily blinked. "Where?" Helen's eyes softened. "To see what you're inheriting." The words stole Emily's breath. They drove for nearly 40 minutes, past the neighborhoods she knew, through quiet suburbs, and into an industrial area where polished buildings gleamed behind security gates. Helen flashed a card at the guard booth. The gate lifted instantly. "Mom, what is this place?" Emily whispered. Helen smiled faintly. "Your grandmother's headquarters, and now, ours." As they entered, employees greeted Helen with respect that bordered on reverence. Emily stared, stunned, as doors opened into a modern lobby with tall glass walls, marble floors, and a massive engraved plaque. Harrington Industries. "Mom, your maiden name is Harrington," Emily whispered. Helen nodded. "Your grandmother started this company as a small transport service. Now it owns logistics networks, commercial rentals, software assets, and investments across the country." Emily's knees weakened. "And all this belongs to you?" "And someday to you," Helen said quietly. "But only if you choose it." Emily touched the marble railing, feeling the weight of something she didn't know she carried. She understood suddenly why her mother had hidden all this. Wealth this size wasn't just money. It was power, attention, manipulation, danger. And Tyler would have drowned himself in greed if he'd known. They toured silently until they reached a private office overlooking the entire compound. On the desk lay a sealed envelope. Helen picked it up and handed it to Emily. "Your grandmother wrote this for you," she said. "I wanted to wait until you were older." Life pushed the timing forward. Emily opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a handwritten letter, soft with age. "My Emily, if you are reading this, life has carried you through storms and revealed parts of the world I wish to protect you from. Know this, power means nothing without character. Choose love wisely, trust slowly, and never let money blind you to kindness." Emily pressed the letter to her chest. "Mom," she whispered, "I wish she were here." Helen touched her shoulder. "She is." Before Emily could speak again, Helen's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and frowned. "He's here." "What? Who?" Emily asked, but she already knew. Tyler. 15 minutes later, they returned to the bakery. Tyler stood outside, pacing beside his car, the engagement cake box in his hands like it weighed 100 pounds. Renee was nowhere to be seen. He rushed forward the second he spotted Emily. "Emily, please. We need to talk again." "No, we don't," Helen said, stepping between them with graceful authority that suddenly made complete sense to Emily. Tyler's eyes darted nervously. "Yesterday, I wasn't myself. I was stressed, confused." "You were overhearing," Helen corrected softly. Tyler froze. Emily felt her stomach twist. "So you know," she whispered. Tyler swallowed. Look, I didn't mean to. The window was open. But Emily, listen. You should have told me. We could have worked through things, built a future. You and me, we belong together." Emily stared at him, stunned by the desperation under his charm. "We belong together," she repeated. "Yesterday, you told me I limited you." "I was wrong," he breathed. "I didn't realize what your mom was hiding. I didn't realize—" "There it is," Helen whispered. Tyler blinked. "What?" "The truth," she said calmly. "You don't want Emily. You want access." Tyler's face flushed with anger. "That's not true." Emily stepped forward. taking a steady breath. Then say it without asking about the company, without asking what I'm inheriting, without asking anything except how I am. Tyler opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. That silence ended everything. Renee's car suddenly pulled up. She stepped out angrily, heels clicking on pavement. Tyler, are you kidding me? You said you were getting the cake. Why are you talking to her? Emily didn't move. She didn't need to. Tyler broke. Renee, just give me a minute. Renee's eyes widened. A minute? To do what? Crawl back to your ex-wife now that she turned out to be worth money? The street went silent. Tyler's face twisted. You don't understand. Oh, I understand, Renee snapped. The second I heard her mom was rich, you practically ran out of the restaurant. Emily inhaled sharply. Helen remained perfectly still. You told her? Emily asked quietly. Renee folded her arms. Honey, he told everyone. He panicked like he was losing stock value. Tyler's mask shattered. His breath quickened. His chest heaved. Emily, please, he whispered, voice cracking into something small. Don't do this. Emily looked at him for a long moment. Really looked. Not at the man she once loved, but at the man he had become. And she felt something release inside her. A thread cut clean. This isn't revenge, she whispered. This is closure. She stepped back beside her mother. We're done, Tyler. Helen placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, grounding her. And for your sake, she added softly, I hope you learn that character, not wealth, defines a person's future. Tyler's face collapsed. His mouth opened in shock, disbelief, grief, and rage all tangled together. His jaw dropped so dramatically Renee physically stepped back from him. And in that moment, with the quiet strength of a woman who finally knew her worth, Emily turned away. Helen opened the bakery door. But before they went inside, Emily spoke one last time. Calm, steady, unshakable. Take the cake. It's the last thing you'll ever get from us. Tyler didn't move. Couldn't move. What she had done, without shouting, without revenge, without theatrics, crushed him more completely than anything money could buy. And as the door closed behind her, Emily finally felt free. Weeks passed, and the seasons shifted gently, brushing the town with a soft warmth that felt like renewal. The bakery reopened one morning with brighter flour-dusted windows, a fresh coat of paint, and the same comforting smell of cinnamon that had always defined it. But something inside had changed, something subtle but unmistakable. Emily was different now. She moved with a quiet confidence that came not from wealth, but from clarity, the kind of clarity that arrives only after the heart has been broken and healed in the right places. The letter from her grandmother stayed in her top drawer, edges worn from rereading, each word strengthening her with a reminder of legacy, resilience, and the responsibility of choice. Helen worked beside her, humming softly the way she used to when Emily was a child. Yet even Helen seemed lighter, as if revealing the truth had lifted a weight from her shoulders. She no longer hid the occasional business meeting on the outskirts of town. She no longer pretended the bakery was her only world. Instead, she balanced both realities with grace. Simple hands, powerful mind. One afternoon, a group of employees from Harrington Industries visited the bakery for a meeting. They greeted Emily with respect she was still learning to accept. They spoke to her with professionalism, not because of her inheritance, but because Helen had told them, treat my daughter as she treats you. And Emily had always treated people with kindness. She listened, asked thoughtful questions, and even made decisions she once would have feared making. Her mother watched her with pride, seeing the woman she had hoped Emily would become. Strong not because of wealth, but because of understanding. Meanwhile, Tyler faded into the background. Word spread quickly in town about his engagement crumbling the very night he picked up the cake. Renee had left furious, claiming she didn't sign up for emotional bankruptcy. His new corporate opportunity vanished when rumors spread about the public scene outside the bakery. He tried to rebuild his image, but something unspoken clung to him, an echo of the moment he realized the truth too late. Sometimes he passed the bakery in his car, slowing down without meaning to, staring through the window only to see Emily laughing with a customer or discussing plans with her mother. But he never stopped. He never approached. He couldn't. Not after the clean, quiet way she closed the door on him. He had lost her and everything she represented, not because she hid her wealth, but because he had mistaken simplicity for weakness. Life, with its ironic symmetry, delivered the lesson he needed most. The heart he abandoned was worth far more than the luxury he chased. As for Emily, she never celebrated his downfall. It wasn't who she was. Instead, she focused on her future, one she chose deliberately. She split her days between the bakery and the headquarters, learning both worlds, shaping her path piece by piece. She discovered she had a talent for strategy, compassion for employees, and a natural instinct for leadership. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, casting the bakery in a warm golden glow, Helen wrapped an arm around her daughter. "You know," she said softly, "your grandmother would be proud of you." Emily smiled. "I hope so. I still don't know what direction I should take with it all." "You'll figure it out," Helen replied. "You always do." "Mom," Emily asked quietly, "do you ever regret hiding everything for so long?" Helen thought for a moment. "No," she answered. "Because now you know who you are without all the noise, and that will make you unstoppable." Emily rested her head on her mother's shoulder, grateful for the strength passed through generations. Outside, the town moved gently. Cars drifting by, neighbors waving, children running with laughter in their steps. Life continued, soft and honest. And inside the bakery, in the place where everything began, Emily finally felt whole. Not because she possessed a legacy of wealth, but because she had survived betrayal, discovered truth, chosen integrity, and reclaimed her worth with quiet dignity. Her future was wide open, her heart was steady, and the life she would build next would be on her own terms, rooted not in money, but in character, authenticity, and the kind of love her grandmother wrote about. The doorbell chimed with a new customer entering, and Emily straightened, tying her apron with a bright smile. A new chapter had begun, and she was ready for it.